All right, hey guys, TG here. Let's see running. And I just want to make sure we get the right connection, and then we'll dive into it. So if somebody wants to comment real quick, I want to make sure that this thing is working as far as our chat. All right, great, good. Okay, so so if you guys want to be looking into who I am, a little bit more information, you can come over here to profitpilot.com, and then you know what? Let's just jump into the markets. We had the CPI number come out today, and it was not, well, it was within line, so it wasn't too hot. And if it was too hot, then kind of the idea is that we would be tapering. And so people were concerned about whatever that was going to be. Now, this could have to just talk about, this could just be a short squeeze that happened. You know, I was kind of mentioning to one of my trading buddies, I was like, are we just going to keep short squeezing ourselves to new all-time highs and that's about it, so that the only people buying the market are people who are short and have to buy to get out? That might be a thing, because we just aren't seeing much energy happening up there. So part of what we're looking at is, yes, we did have the market move up today. The S&P and the Nasdaq, the S&P and the Dow look, but WM and the Nasdaq didn't really do too much. I'm going to go through that. And what I'm seeing, for those of you who are familiar with the MOX indicator and all that kind of stuff, what's starting to concern me is that we are building a gap between price and the hourly 50, because oftentimes they talk needing to come back and that support, test that support, and also the fact that we have just trying to crawl up, but the MOX indicator also just not really doing much. So that's a little bit of a concern. So far, we have had price following the 15-minute 50, so on that time frame, it's been good. But all right, let's see. Let me try and redo this quick. All right, how's that? Is the audio sounding a little bit better out there? Because all right, so what I was looking at here is we've got that gap between price and the hourly 50, and it seems to me like, well, that might be wanting to get tested. The other situation is we're looking at price and the daily 50, and there's starting to become a little bit of a distance between this. So we've got price to the 50, price to the 50, back to the 50, back to the 50, back to the 50. And yeah, at that point, it looks like we're starting to kind of stay hovering away from the 50 again. So it looks to me like we might kind of be in the opportunity of where we need to find the hourly 50. All right, let me see. All right. I also bumped up the resolution, so I don't know if the resolution has changed trend for anything. So then if we let's look at the Dow for a second. Look here on the Dow, we got new all-time highs, right? Kind of going on here. And hopefully it's not going to be like the S&P where we got a big bump up, but then it kind of came back down. We don't want that issue. And are we just short squeezing our way to new highs? And if we look here, it seems right now, right this moment, we're probably a little overbought, mostly because we have price jumping off of the 8 EMA and we have price outside of that third ATR. So it's a little up there. I wouldn't be surprised to see price come back and start looking for other support as it moves up. Yeah, and then I know we keep talking about my bandwidth and stuff. So this Friday, because right now it's Wednesday, so this Friday I'm getting fiber optic installed. So we should have a gigabit download and a gigabit upload. Hopefully that solves all of our problems here. All right, then we can see with the Dow, we have broken out pretty nicely. I'd like to, this is bullish and we're going to be seeing some strength here, but everything we keep seeing is new highs just don't really have much through. And so that's concern that I have here. And then if we look over to the deck, we're just doing much. We're kind of topping out. The concern that I had, other than when price was holding the daily 21, what happens when price starts to break daily 21. Then in addition to that, what we'll see is that the hourly 100 will not be able to hold price. I'm concerned we're starting to see something like that. So just when I was thinking, okay, maybe price is going to go sideways and start to find some support, we might actually start running out a little bit. So right here, we had an inverse trampoline move. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. And we're starting to get guided down by the 15-minute 50. So once again, watch out for this distance, this gap between price and the daily 50. So that's generally my concern right there. And then for the IWM, I've been looking at this as fairly bullish. We kind of because if we look here, we've got the, we've basically been making progress to the upside. But what we need to make sure, and I keep telling all my subscribers about this, is that even though I'm looking at this bullish, we need to always be on the lookout for, is it really just a bear flag? Like, is this move just moving up into the underside of resistance? Is it just kind of migrating sideways up until it just bumps its head into something and then actually gets pushed down? So I've been on this mostly because it's been working out to the upside, but I want to make sure that that upside is not into overall resistance. So generally what we can see is from the last time something similar to this, we had the 8 cross over the 21 and we had cross over the daily 50. So that was good. We had to move up there. Now what I've been looking at is we have had price with the daily 21s change sides, so that's bullish. But I've been saying that we need to make sure that the daily 50 doesn't become resistance. If this is going to be bullish, we need to see price start to get over the daily 50. And then none of these other things matter, and price is going to start rolling over down to the downside. And then on the hourly chart right here, we've been having troubles getting past the hourly 200. Then we had a regular trampoline move, so price below the 50, the Moxie indicator above 0, and it finally pushed price back up. And then again, it looked like we're having some progress. We're having price actually starting to get past the hourly 200, so that should be good, and as long as it holds. And then what we've also seen is price generally holding the hourly 50, and then the hourly 50 starting to cross over the 200 and the Moxie indicator above 0. All this should be good as long as it holds. But then we kind of take it one more step down. We look at the 15. It's like, we're having troubles with price getting over the 15-minute 50. It's just kind of not happening. And so that's a concern through that area. Then we take it over to the UVXY because I like to look at the UVXY and it gives us a little bit of an insight as to, is it calling the bluff of the market? Because back and through here, we were having some questions. Is the market going to go up or down? Well, the XY can sometimes help us answer that question. And so we're looking at this and right through here, we're like, okay, it's starting to move up. It's going to hold because if the UVXY starts to get traction, then the market's going to go down. And that's going to be a problem. And you can see here, it just could not get any traction. And fortunately, it then started to get pushed down by the underside of the 15-minute 50, which should indicate that the market wants to be bullish. So this is why I've been looking bullish, trying to go that direction. And at this point, it's still looking okay. But just because sometimes, oftentimes price moves too far and then rebounds, I'm looking at this and saying, the UVXY seems like it's kind of getting pushed to the downside, and it might just be due for a bounce. So if we do get a bounce in the UVXY just because it's oversold, then that's going to be a problem for the indexes. All right, then we look at some other things. How's Amazon doing? Right? Let's kind of take a look at some of these bigger indications, bigger moves. And I've related this to gold in the past. The fact that gold had a surprise drop several weeks ago, and what did trade got rejected right at the underside of the hourly 50. And so it did that for a little bit, so clearly that wasn't the right place to get in. But that is, it came down here, did a little bit undercut, and then started a fairly decent run. Now, how that started was that price got back on top of the 15-minute 50 to demonstrate that price could actually move up. So let's kind of take a look at gold. for a second. So if we go back here to where that move was, right and through there, you can see it was right here, very, very similar to what Amazon is doing. And what we can see there is price got rejected by the underside of the hourly 50. And then we can see here that there's that rejection, and then oh look, right there is where price was able to get over the 15-minute 50 and then move up. So that's kind of what we're looking at, is seeing if eventually, if we're going to be looking long in Amazon, we need to see price get on top of the 15-minute 50 with a good Moxie indicator, and we want to see price start to follow that moving average. And right now, it's not doing that, so we just have to sit and wait. And Amazon, as a barometer for the market, if Amazon's having troubles going up, well, then the market might be having some troubles, especially NASDAQ. And then if we look at Apple, look at this too. This one looks more like the NASDAQ than any other stock so far. And my concern here is there is a big gap between price and the daily 50. It's like, okay, how is this thing going to get resolved? How is price going to, start to move up? Can it keep moving up when it's this far away from the moving average? So we'll look lower. We'll look one step lower. First of all, this was an inverse trampoline move. It should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. So that's telling me there's no long. There's no long there. And if anything, I then look at the distance between price and the Moxie indicator. I'm like, that's going to take some time before the Moxie indicator is ready to even get close to 0 in order to cross over. So according to the Moxie indicator on Apple, this thing's got a long ways to go before a bullish or actually a long entry. And so my concern at this point is, now that it's at the hourly 200, what if the hourly 200 can't hold price? What if the daily 21 can't hold price? And if it's gonna fall off of that, then we're most likely going to see price probably go down to about the daily 50, and that's going to be pretty rough. It's going to be pretty rough for the market. All right, so let's see. So yeah, Java. Personally, I need to wait till after earnings, first off. So earnings is just right around the corner. I'd like to wait because anything goes for earnings. It doesn't matter how your technical analysis is or anything. Earnings is going to do whatever it's going to do. And what I was kind of looking at this, okay, is this going to be bullish, right? And I'm kind of looking at maybe kind of a double bottom there. We got some positive divergence, and we've got you can see some posts about this too. Here's kind of a level divergence, and is price to eventually hold the hourly 50 and start to move up? And for a little bit, it looked like that's feasible. You can see here we've had a couple trampoline moves. Price below 50, but the Moxie indicator above 0. That's bullish. And so again, we've got earnings. But if I put this in the vacuum, I would like to say, hey, looks like price is starting to hold the hourly 50, and the hourly 50 is moving up, and it could cross over the hourly 200. And you can see we've got the 8 and 21 starting to narrow, which means that if price wanted to go up, it could cross over to the other side. But the other problem is, what if this is bearish? What if price is just kind of pushing past these things? And what if the hourly 200 is actually going to be resistance? Or what if the daily 50, as price just ran into, is going to ultimately be resistance? What if this was price moving down, pulling back into resistance, and then actually moving down? That's a possibility too. So the fact that price is basically just going sideways means that we don't have a clear direction. We have things we'd like to see, but we also need to be prepared that these could actually be setting up for a direction that we're maybe not prepared for, or that we just don't really want because we would rather go long. All right, AMD, probably not too much to say about this one. They had big earnings, and so huge move. And if you're in something like this, you need to realize that this is an excessive move. Pat yourself on the back if you got in and you rode some of it. You also need to understand when to get to capture these profits. I feel like price was way outside of that third ATR. It was really just, and then you even see price jump off of the moving average. So in that case, you can see it was just too bullish. It got way outside any of its support, got way outside any kind of metrics to say that this is a reasonable type move. It just was excessive. And so that's the thing that you need to be able to recognize so that you can take profits or exit before it rolls over. And then you can see here, jumped up, big spike move. That's kind of like a blow off top, right? And then you can see from there, price started to fall below and started to get guided down by the 15-minute 50. So I had a buddy who was riding this up, and I think he texted me right about there, and he said, hey, should I get out? I said, yeah, absolutely. I don't think this thing's going to hold. And then I had a subscriber ask me, I think right through, I don't know, it was here or here, basically as price was coming down into the hourly 50, and they said, hey, what do I think? And usually to me that means, hey, should I go long or can I enter? We're looking bullish. And I said, yeah, okay, we might, we're looking at this, we're trying to see if price is going to hold the hourly 50, because that's what the question is. But I said, well, I want to see the 15-minute 50 set up first. I want to see a better, more development. What that means is I want to see price get over the 15-minute 50, and I want to see the Moxie indicator over 0. Neither of which were existing. None of this stuff was happening. Yeah, Zane, the hourly 5 ATR. Sure, that makes sense. I like to use the third because it, the third you can see right here, it's just right at the third. Sure, add 4 or 5. If price ever gets to 5, that's pretty obvious. That should be extreme. Yeah, if it ever gets to 5, yeah, get out. Let's see, RTX. I don't think I know this one. Let me look at the higher times because that's what I like to do. Well, you can see that, first of all, just aware that you are right here at a lot of previous resistance. Okay, so you have to think, can price get up and over and past that resistance? From this standpoint, you can see that price was very far off of the moving average, but then it came back down to test it. So, okay, that might be good. And then you can see here, hit that third ATR, pulled back into some support. Okay, that looks all right. Now I have to look lower and see what it's going to do. And then we come over here. What I'm looking at is there could be an issue here. This is a potential inverse trampoline move. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. So that could be an issue. But if we look lower to try and figure out how this thing's going to move, what I do like is this on the hourly chart. Price has been held by the hourly 200 and is below the hourly 50 while the Moxie indicator is above 0, and that's a trampoline move. So that should be bullish, which it has been for now. Right here, just the other day, price did hold the hourly. Everything looks pretty good in through. It's holding all these moving averages. I would just be concerned about this overall market, what's going on with it. So just see if you're going to be going. I'd really like to see if price can continue to hold the hourly 50 and move up, and that would generally mean that price can probably hold initially the daily 8 EMA, after that probably the daily 21. So be bullish, just so that if things go wrong, you've got an idea of how to get out and what that looks like. All right, ENTH. So Ash, I was in this one, decided to get out today. I like generally what's going on. We've seen price come down and hold these monthly moving averages. And even here, I like that price pulled back and held on to the weekly 21. That'll look pretty good. And then in through here, I was just trying to see if price can kind of get some footing and start to hold the weekly 8. And then that should also look good. So then we come into here on the hourly time frame. And what I was looking at is price holding, doing a double bottom off of an increasing or an uptrending daily 50, so that looked good. You can even see kind of here's your level, there's your positive divergence, it's after earnings, and we got it right here when price bounced off the hourly 50 and the Moxie indicator fired. All that looked pretty good. Then we had a few days of having this good, even like tried to break out to new highs. Now, as far as this breakout to new highs, let me kind of zoom into this. The fact that it pulled back the next day didn't really surprise me too much, because if you look here, see how there's a big gap between price and the EMA on the daily chart? That did show me that's probably a little bit of a bot in that situation, not too far away from the moving averages. You can see that also here on the hourly. And then price pulled back, and it pulled back pretty sharply. And I did add more because it looked like price was going to hold the hourly 200 and the Moxie indicator the time was 0, and price coming into the daily 21, all these things, it looked like that should be a good place to add more and have price bounce. Well, it worked, I think, the day later, something like that, and it did move up, held those moving averages, moved up, but then it got held up by the hourly 50, and it doesn't look like it's holding here, and the MOXY indicator keeps moving down, and we're not holding the hourly 200, and we're not holding the daily 50. So I do have to look at these things and say, all right, the original reason why I got into this, the fact that it was going to bounce, and it did, but then it didn't, makes me say, you know what, I don't think this is quite ready. I think that, you know what, just to protect ourselves, let's get out. I think it was like a 1% loss or something like that, if that. And I said, you know what, we just need to get out because we don't know what it's going to do next. The fact that it's not holding any of these moving averages tells me it's just going to chop or it can go down, and it's just not quite ready. One thing that makes me kind of think of it, if we look at crowd like this. So CrowdStrike, and a lot of us have been looking at this, and you know, for the most part, I would be looking at this and saying, yeah, this looks bullish. We should just wait for price to go sideways and run into the moving averages and then move up. Well, what I'm looking at is, you know, there's still a bit of distance from price in the daily 50 and still a little bit of distance much closer. And I wanted to see if those were double bottoms, like what you can see here on the hourly, and positive divergence. And then I want to see if price can start moving, getting someplace. And right in through here, it looked like price was just about ready to get going again. It looked like price was going to hold the I-50, then the 50 stayed over the 2, and you know, the MOXY indicator was not, it was still not below, the MOXY indicator was still below 0. It was not crossing, which was telling me this was yet again another inverse trampoline move, which you can see here and here, the MOXY indicator was still below 0 the entire time. So even though it looked promising, the indicator was still telling us it was not ready to go up. And then as of today, boom, or actually was that today and yesterday? Yeah, yesterday, it looked like it basically started to break. So yesterday started to break down. MOXY indicator was pretty red, not doing anything. And boy, at this point, it's like I'd say either step aside or whatever, because this doesn't look good, doesn't look very happy. And this is what I'm wondering with Amazon and the NASDAQ. Like, what if, you know, this big old gap between price and the daily 50, what if it's eventually going to do that? What if it needs to get down to the daily 50 or even go lower than the daily 50? So kind of rough out there. All right, then MSTR. Let's get all this to load. So I nearly had this one. I just, you know, and I should have just caught onto it because it's about a day and a half worth of trade. Right here, right there, you can see the price actually, the hourly 50. Right here, it also tapped MOXY indicator above 0. This all after a trampoline move right there. Price below the 50, but the MOXY above 0. That's what I'm showing for some of these other names. Like, which one was it? PLTR. You know, PLTR looked like it had a trampoline move and looked like it wanted to keep moving up, and it's slightly moving up, but it's not doing a very good job. And so MSTR, it was like a 2-day trade, right from right there to basically there, and it's like, and I just barely missed it, but I didn't want to chase it because a lot of things in this market have not been working to chase. So MSTR had a good couple of days, jumped up, and just like AMD, it got too overbought. So who had the 5 ATR? So Zane, tell me if MSTR is outside of the 5 ATR on any of these time frames. Because if you can see here, it jumped way outside of the 3rd ATR on the hourly. It jumped way outside of the 3rd ATR on the daily. And now it's just floating in midair. You can see there's a big gap here and a big gap here. So yeah, I don't think this is going to work to the long side, or at least I think it's ready for a pullback. You know, this thing went up too hard, too fast, and I think it's ready for a pullback. And what we can see is, as of today, price is underneath the 15 and 50. And you can see the gap there between price and hourly 50. So I think that MSTR is probably going to move down. Now, is it going to be a pullback? Is it something bigger? We never know. This kind of market, we get these kind of moves up, and then get out and see if you can do something like that a little bit later. all right, guys. Well, I'm there. Sounded like we still had a little bit with the audio, and hopefully with the video quality, audio, all that. We're still working on it. I'm going to be getting faster internet on Friday, and so hopefully next week, fingers crossed, if everything works out, I'm going to have gigabit fiber optic service, and hopefully that'll solve some of our upload download issues. But thanks again for bearing in with us, and we'll see you guys next week.